Hello, my friends, and happy November. We are in the month of November, and here in Mind Your Autistic Brain, our topics for the series this month are gratitude and acknowledgement, but gratitude in a whole new way. I'm going to be doing something that's going to shift your perspective. I want you to join me. This is a challenge for the month of November. This is part of the unveiling method. This is also part of the self-care plan from the inside out when we're talking about our thought thermostat. If you're not sure what the thought thermostat is, or you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, go back and check out the September series for a self-care plan from the inside out. And check out that episode on thought thermostat. I'll link it above. So today we're going to be talking about a complaint-free world. Yep. You heard me right, a complaint-free world. Think about your day. How many times do you hear a complaint? How many times do you yourself make a complaint? Well, on average, each human has about 70,000 thoughts per day. And of those 70,000 thoughts, on average, now we're being conservative here, between 15 and 30 of those thoughts turn into words, either spoken or written, that are a complaint. So I read this amazing book that was shared with me by one of my mentors, and the book is called A Complaint-Free World by Will Bowden. And I'll link it below in the show notes so you can go check it out and read it and join in. I am inviting each and every person in the Mind Your Autistic Brain community here to join me in November, Complaint-Free November. We're going to be working on changing our thermostat, our thought thermostat. Because often, we've talked about thought loops, but have you gotten stuck in a complaint loop? Something irritates you, somebody does something, you get offended, you get your feelings hurt, you get upset, you get irritated, and you complain. Well, what's interesting is that we have the power to control how we complain when we choose to complain, because there are places and opportunities and things where a complaint is genuine. But there's a difference between a complaint and giving information in a factual form. And we're going to talk about that because, we talk about our energy all the time and self-care plan from the inside out. We were talking about the thought thermostat and how our energy is used. Complaints have a negative energy. They consume a great deal of our energy. And if you've never noticed or paid attention before, I'm hoping that this is going to help shift some of that thinking for you and help you see some other areas where you can conserve your energy and also gain some energy from doing some things that are going to make a big difference. So join me for this episode and let's get started. Hi, I'm Carole Jean Whittington, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in life and relationships as a late identified autistic by unveiling who you are, what you love, creating balance, and being the leader and creator of your best life. Get ready, because this is where we go against the mainstream. We say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to who we are in order to create a joy-filled, balanced, and more neurodistinct world. Welcome to Mind Your Autistic Brain. In the complaint-free movement, 10 million people in over 106 countries over the last half a decade have joined in the complaint-free movement. I'm inviting you to join me to be a part of this because based on the average of 15 to 30 complaints per day, in all of the people that have joined in this movement, that is 42 trillion, yes, I said trillion with a T, less complaints in the world each year. Can you imagine what your life would be like if not just yourself, but all the people in your life and in your sphere stopped complaining about every little thing? How less stressful, anxiety-inducing, and much more pleasant, joyful, and happy would your world be? We're going to be moving and talking about this today because as we're talking about gratitude, I Normally I usually say, hey, look for those 3 good things that you can acknowledge and be grateful for and thankful for in your day. Well, I'm going to shift a little bit. And today we're going to be talking about the things that we can remove from our life to create space to start seeing and finding those areas to be grateful for and thankful for. So by becoming aware of our words, we can change the thermostat on our thoughts and begin creating our life by design. Because here in Mind Your Autistic Brain, in Late Identified Life, what I teach, what I coach, what I help each and every one of you work through in the unveiling method is begin making intentional choices. Begin crafting and creating your life and being the leader in your own life. No longer living by default of societal norms or what somebody says you should or shouldn't be doing, but by your own choice, your own design. And creating a thought thermostat and helping to calibrate that through raising our threshold for complaining and really getting granular about what we complain about and why, changes our thoughts. It changes our perception. It changes our life. Most people believe that by complaining, they are raising awareness to a problem and that will lead to the problem getting solved, right? We usually complain because something has bugged us, it's irritated us, and we want to fix it. So we think that by complaining about it, it's going to get fixed. Here's the reality of that. Think about this for a minute. This isn't fully true. Remember, that's one of the questions I have you guys ask all the time. When you have a thought or you have a belief that you're evaluating, is it true? Not subjective, so take that with a grain of salt, but is it true for you right now? Based on where you are, is it true? So what complaining actually does is it creates a negative feeling that stops the positive progress of solutions and opportunities. So one of the reasons we're looking at going complaint-free this month is because if we are stopping those negative feelings and we're putting a halt on those, we are opening up positive progress to see solutions and opportunities. How often have you looked for a solution or an opportunity when someone complains? Not usually very often, you don't. You have an emotional response to a complaint. And that emotional response is usually one of defensiveness, because you feel like somebody is saying it was your fault or you did it or you're the reason and they're complaining and you immediately get defensive. Or you join in on the complaining. You're like, oh my gosh, yes, I can't believe our boss did that. He's such a jerk, and you dogpile in on it. Nobody's looking for the opportunities. Nobody's looking for the solutions. We're just perpetuating more complaining and more negative feelings and more discontent, and we're not solving the problem. We're only complaining about what's wrong. There is no solution. There is no action coming out of that. So you may ask, well, what do we do? How do we do this? Will Bowen has a great quote in his book, and he says this: your thoughts create your life, and your words indicate what you are thinking. If you will change your words, your thoughts will follow, and you will change your life. If the average person is complaining 15 to 30 times per day, that's a lot. That's a whole lot. Check yourself today. And, I put the post out yesterday or Monday, and I said, hey guys, just take a moment to observe yourself today. Catch yourself when you start complaining. How many times did you complain today? A lot of people said, I kind of made it to the end of the day and then I had a bunch of them. And that's usually when it happens. That's when it happened for me. I had 2 of them late in the day. I had done really well. And the reason that we usually complain later in the day is we have less self-control. We have less energy, less resources. We're a little bit more irritable. things push our buttons a little easier. So if your complaining happens later in the day, don't worry, it's normal, it happens. But we're going to work on some things to help raise your complaint threshold for those things that cause you grief and frustration and pain. And let's kind of talk about what is a complaint exactly. So Merriam-Webster defines complaining as this: to express grief, pain, or discontent. Okay, that's pretty useful and valid definition for the word complaint. Now, I want to point out that a complaint is different from a statement of fact by one main element. And that element is the energy or the charge behind it. So if I am at a restaurant and I receive my dinner and it's cold, now I can call my waiter over and I can say, "Pardon me, would you mind taking my dinner back to the kitchen? It's cold. I appreciate it." That is a statement of fact requesting a solution to the problem. It's not a complaint. This is what a complaint would be. I receive my dinner. I look at my dinner companion. I inhale. My dinner's cold. I cannot eat this. This is ridiculous. I cannot believe that they just served me a cold dinner. "Excuse me, waiter, my dinner's cold. I cannot eat this. This is ridiculous." That's a complaint. Do you feel the energy difference? Do you feel the energy difference in those two scenarios? One is a statement of fact that helps arise, and you are then clearly stating a solution or your proposed solution, an opportunity. The other is an emotionally negatively charged complaint based on being irritated, being exasperated, right? There's a difference. When we are putting our energy into that complaining and that negative energy, it is draining. It is draining. I used more energy now just to express and give you an example of that complaint versus the statement of fact and asking for a solution, or presenting a solution. I physically felt the difference in myself. Try it on your side. Pick something that you can make both a statement and then a complaint. See how it makes you feel. For those of us with alexithymia, this is a really great exercise because you do physically experience the physical difference and the energy difference when you do this. So try it out. Complaints are counterattacks for perceived injustices. That is what Bowen says in his book, A Complaint-Free World. And I thought that was really powerful, that complaints are counterattacks for perceived injustices. Think about when you complain. You're not doing it usually for any other reason than you're retaliating against something that's upset you, a perceived injustice. And it's that perception, that lens that we're viewing things with that create those complaints. A statement of fact, on the other hand, is a neutral comment intended to inform, not to berate the receiver. I thought it was really interesting, and Will points this out in his book. And he says, "Ouch is a normal response to pain or hurt, but many people have become an ouch seeking a hurt." Ooh, boy, did that hit home. Did that just hit home with you too? Because before I started this complaint-free journey, and I've been on my complaint-free journey for a few months now, I have not yet made my 21 consecutive days, but yesterday I only had 2 complaints late in the day. That's a huge, tremendous leap from my 30 plus that was my average when I started. And what I noticed was, even when I was restarting and I ended up on day 1 for like a week and a half in a row, it was okay because I didn't feel like I was starting over and over again. I actually started to notice that I was feeling more content. I was feeling more rested. I was feeling more joyful. And I actually started to notice that my thoughts were joyful and happy. I wasn't seeking negative things because I wasn't allowing negative things in. One of the things I would like to propose for all of the Mind Your Autistic Brain community this month, taking your first step into a complaint-free world, go free of the news. For the month of November, taking and curating your environment. So if we assign, and there's been some research done that came out within the last year or so that says, hey, we actually make decisions on a subconscious level split seconds before we actually make a conscious decision. And we are creatures of habit. So our complaints, our complaining is a habit. And one of the things that has the greatest impact on changing our habits is our environment and how we curate our environment, what we read, the people we surround ourselves with, the music we listen to, the activities we engage in. One of the biggest complaint driving factors that is a negative proponent and has the biggest impact in our daily life is our consumption of news. I stopped watching and consuming mass media news about 4 years ago, before I read The Complaint-Free World. But I did it because I noticed that every time I watched the news, I got upset. It was emotionally and physically an energy drain for me. The news is specific and strategically done to get us upset, to be negative, to be sensationalized. And it impacts how we think, because it does something that's called, in psychology, priming. So think about your environment and how you're being primed. So a prime is something like, if I tell you, don't think about a white bear, you're immediately thinking about a white bear. But then I'm not going to ever mention it again today. Later this afternoon, I'm going to come back and I'll ask you a question and I'll say, hey, can you name 3 types of bears? The first bear you're going to name is a polar bear. Because earlier in the day, I primed you and I said, don't think about white bears. So the news is a very similar thing, and it is priming you to complain. It is priming you for negativity, and it's already sucking your energy. Believe me, there is nothing that you will miss that is truly important by not watching the news. You know how I know what the weather is? I look outside. I walk out my front door. Somebody will tell me if there's bad weather coming and I need to prepare for it. Someone will tell you if there's something really significant you need to know. I promise. It is not going to make a huge difference in the sense that you're not going to get the important stuff. It is going to make a huge difference in how you feel, in what you're noticing, and in your energy. And especially how it's impacting your thoughts. Because our thoughts become our words become our deeds, and it trickles down. You've heard it before, right? So as we're taking that first step and we're removing those things in our environment, starting with the news that impact or prime us for that negativity, one of the things I'd like you to do is just a self-assess. Do a self-assessment. When you catch yourself complaining, ask if the reason or situation is truly worthy of your energy. That's when I started to ask myself. When I caught myself about to complain or I caught myself complaining, I'd stop and say, whoa, is that really worthy of my energy? Because when we complain, it is an energy deficit. It is taking energy away from us. It is a negative, and it has that physical impact. So this helps raise your awareness of your current complaint tolerance. And it allows you to then reflect, so the next time, and believe me, there will be a next time, we're human, you can choose differently. This will help raise your threshold for what leads you to expressing grief, pain, or discontent. Complaining is a habit, and as we know, habits become automated and unconscious. We also know that as we begin to replace or change our habits, it takes time as the brain is creating new neural pathways, it's neural plasticity, for the new habit we wish to instill. So we know that the habit installation protocol from the University College London says that on average it takes 66 days to instill a new habit to the point of unconscious competence. Well, we're starting from ground zero right here. For most of us, especially in late identified life, we've been greatly impacted by this, and we haven't even known it. So today, I want you to take a moment to reflect. Just start to notice and become aware of, what are you complaining about? Are you stating fact and leaving room for opportunities and solutions? Or are you complaining and using a negative approach that's simply going to evoke a counterattack, so more complaining from other people, or feeling like you're just complaining all together as a group and you're just getting madder and madder and you're giving your energy away to that? When you're looking at complaining, I want you to start looking at it not as something that is truly just negative, but looking at it as, how do I curate this in my life? How do I make a choice to begin to craft and lead and design my thoughts and my life around me? Because with complaining and that negative energy, here's the thing. We draw more of it, and the things that we're complaining about that we don't want, we're actually creating more of it in our life and drawing more of it to us. When we start to shift, we take the news out of our environment. We start to really carefully curate how much time we spend with those people that we start to notice. Because here's a big warning sign, people. Let me just give this to you real quick. By joining in this episode, the veil has been lifted, and you will become more aware of complaining and negativity from this point forward. But where things shift with this is knowledge that you get to choose not to participate. You get to choose from a conscious place, from a creator and leadership place, and you start to create what your environment is for yourself, because it all starts from the inside out. I hope this has been helpful to you, because as we move into more of our Gratitude and Acknowledgement month, as we're removing this barrier, and that's what this is, complaining becomes a barrier in our life, in our thoughts, in all of the things that we see and how our life is perceived. As we begin to remove this one really big barrier that we haven't been aware of before, we start to allow space for those opportunities, for those positive things, for those gratitude moments to come in. And as we're moving into thankful Thanksgiving, this gratitude and thankfulness month, next week I'm really excited because I'm going to be joined by one of my mentors, Miss Judy Umlis. She is the leader of the Power of Acknowledgement movement, and I'm going to be sharing her beautiful book with you, what the power of acknowledgement is and how impactful it can be in your life to make the things happen and the feelings and the experiences happen that you want. It's an amazing conversation, and I can't wait to share it with you next week, so be sure to tune in. Join me on Instagram and in the Facebook group for Mind Your Autistic Brain. Join in the conversation. Let's get a little vulnerable. Let's get courageous and brave like Brene Brown teaches for our shame resilience, because don't be ashamed. We all do this. Every human does this. We all complain, and it's become a habit. But now you know. I warned you, you're going to notice them everywhere. You're going to notice it in yourself and other people. But from now on, we're going to start making a shift. And I can't wait to hear what this experience has been for you at the end of the month, what your joy and your happiness and your contentment have become. Because truly, my friend, that is what happens. I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me.
If you are someone who likes to help people and share what has made a difference in your life, please share this talk show with a friend and on your social media accounts so that you can be the blessing in another late identified autistic's life. Be sure to tag me at Social Autie so I can personally say thank you. And to help keep the talk show ad-free, please consider becoming a one-time or a recurring supporter through either Buy Me a Coffee or the Anchor podcast links in the show notes below. I truly appreciate your support. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for adding your voice to our story.